Hello YouTube, it is I, Vincent, back again with yet another video. And today we'll be talking about something a little bit different. Instead of talking about guitar stuff today, we're talking about band stuff. And more specifically, we're going to be talking about how to properly start a band in 2026. Now I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything about having a successful band, because if I did, I would be in Los Angeles right now instead of freezing my butt off. But I was able to grow my band Pull the Curtain to the point of being one of the first 6 bands to win the Ernie Ball Battle of the Bands for Warped Tour. And my other band, Wither, is starting its second year off very strong with a brand new distribution deal and landing on a Spotify editorial playlist immediately with our new single, High Risk. Plus, I also have my bachelor's degree in digital marketing from the University of Connecticut, and I have my master's degree from the Berklee College of Music in music business. So I'd like to say that I am at least a tiny bit qualified to talk about this subject. So with all that being said, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I would do if I were to start another band in 2026. First things first, before you even think of a band name or a logo or a photo shoot or anything band related, you need to write a lot of music. And when I say a lot of music, I don't just mean 5 to 10 songs. No, you need to write at least 20 to 25 songs, minimum. Why you need so much music immediately, you may ask? Because if you only have 5 to 10 songs, you don't really know your sound yet. You're still developing who you are as an artist. Once you hit that 20 song point, you start seeing patterns, you start to refine your sound, you start noticing your weak points and work on those. And most importantly, you're able to weed out the weaker songs and release your absolute best of the best first. You're able to put your absolute best foot forward, which is crucial in this landscape where you need to build a lot of momentum very fast. Your first impressions now matter more than ever before. Not only that, but you're also able to have a massive backlog of music that you're able to choose from and release later on. Wither's brand new song, High Risk, is probably one of the first demos that we wrote when me and the other guitarists started writing together. Back when we were still kind of figuring out our sound, deciding if we wanted to go more metalcore or new metal. But having a massive demo backlog is so helpful. Make sure you're never in a situation where you're stuck oh my god, I don't know what to record before going into the studio. You're able to consistently release music, and having consistency is also incredibly important in this landscape. It's very, very important to plan years ahead, and having a massive backlog of music of 25 plus songs is very, very helpful with your planning. Now, after you have 20 to 25 songs, I want you to then pick 3 to 5 of those songs that are the absolute best and plan for an EP. Ultimately, you want to release singles. I do think that singles are the future, but for a brand new band, I think there's a lot of value to be had in an EP release. An EP is an event, Bands release singles all the time, but a collection of music, that's a little bit more rare nowadays. It allows you to start your band off with a little bit more fanfare than if you were just launching with a single. And it also gives people a small catalog of music to kind of understand your sound right off the rip. Plus, I'm not saying that you can't drop singles supporting the EP. I definitely recommend dropping 1 or 2 singles before the EP, depending on how many songs the EP actually is. And that way you can start building up more hype and you have a lot bigger of a content calendar. Having 1 or 2 singles and then going into an EP and then supporting that EP, you easily have 3 to 4 months of content that you can lean on right there. And that helps with that consistency that I was telling you about earlier. All right, now that we got the music stuff all out of the way, I want you to throw out your guitar, because you're not going to need that anymore, and pull out your Excel spreadsheet, because now it's business time. Now you're done being a musician. No more artistry. Now you're a corporate businessman. First things first, you want a band name. You want your brand identity, you want to figure out who your target audience is, and you want to market your position. You need to not think of yourself as just an artist. You need to think of yourself kind of like a little small startup business, you know what I mean? And probably the biggest part about building your brand as an artist is your image. And this is so important that I'm going to have multiple sections just on building your aesthetic. First things first, your logo needs to be absolutely iconic. It needs to be something that could just be on a plain black t-shirt and go hard. It needs to be something that your average 12-year-old in his middle school math class can just be scribbling on the side of his notebook paper. Think Metallica, think Mayhem, think Death, Nirvana, Avenged Sevenfold. These are all bands that have instantly recognizable logos that are very, very simple, but also very, very, very distinct. This is your main symbol as a band, so you want to put a lot of thought into this, and I very much so highly recommend hiring a professional to work with you on this. If this is going to be on all your merch, all your album art, you want this to go hard immediately. Something that I recommend is you and your band make a giant list of bands with logos that you like, send it to a graphic designer, let them know your band name, and then usually they'll give you 3 or 4 options to choose from based on what you like the most. Again, I cannot stress the importance of working with a professional. You do not want to settle when it comes to your logo. The second part of your aesthetic is picking a core color scheme before your release. This may seem like kind of an innocuous thing, but trust me, having a strong color scheme goes a very long way with making your band look more professional. Pick one core color scheme, whether it be blue or pink, red, green, what have you, and have your music video, have your album art, and have your promos all revolve around that color. The reason you want this is because it makes all of your visuals extremely cohesive and it makes your social media look 10 times more serious. Trust me, your Instagram and your TikTok are gonna look so much better if your album art, your clips, your promos, all relatively have the same color scheme. It really does help sell the release, and it really does make your band look significantly more professional than you are when you're just starting as a band. I cannot tell you how many DMs I get from people saying that they checked out our bands just because of the visuals, just because they saw our Instagram and they thought it went really, really hard, so they just had to check us out. And the third part with your aesthetics is your album art. And more importantly, you want your album art to match the music. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, your first impressions matter very, very significantly. And looking at your album art on Spotify might be somebody's first impression of you even before they listen to the track. So you want your album art to be something that sucks people in, lets them know what they're getting into, and ultimately represent your sonic identity as a band that you're trying to portray with this specific release. I cannot tell you how many albums I skipped just because the album art was bad. The one that comes to mind specifically is Transit of Venus by 3 Days Grace. I mean, when I did end up listening to the album, it was really good and I liked it. But I didn't listen to it for years because the art did not match the more gritty vibe that the music had. I was so used to 3 Days Grace having very monochromatic, black and white, edgy art, and then they switched to this more soft, sunset color scheme. And what that signaled to me was a vibe shift. They intentionally shifted away from the type of art that they had previously. So in my head, I think, oh, the music must also have the same vibe shift, even if it doesn't. So ultimately, I think that your album art needs to very much so represent what the music actually is. And my next point, do not fall for, oh, my boy can do it for cheaper. Trust me, this one point kills bands. If you want a one-way ticket to making your band look cheap and terrible, just go with your boy and don't hire professionals. Trust me, I cannot tell you how important hiring professionals is. Yes, it is expensive, but there is a reason that they are professionals. Are you trying to portray that you are a professional band? Then you need to work with professionals and have a professional image and professional music. If you want to save money, ultimately you're gonna cut corners. You're gonna have a cheap mix, you're gonna have a cheap video, you're gonna have cheap photos, what have you. But you're gonna suddenly look a lot more amateur. You aren't competing with other local bands. You need to remember that. You're competing with every musical artist that exists on Spotify and every music platform. You're competing with bands like Metallica and Avenged Sevenfold and Slipknot. Because ultimately, what every musician wants is your time and your streams. And there's only so much time in a day. So ultimately, you need to make sure that you give off the impression and the image that you are serious, that you are professional, and that you know what you are doing. Not to toot my own horn, but Pull the Curtain played Warped Tour. Wither's first ever show was opening for Upon a Burning Body. You wanna know why that happened? Because we looked like a professional, serious band. A band that should be opening for other professional, serious bands. You know what I mean? Appear bigger than you are. That's the strategy. Fake it till you'll make it. And now on to my favorite part of the video, the marketing section, because I love marketing and looking at numbers and seeing charts go up. Well, first thing you know, there are 3 types of marketing media. There's your paid media, there's your owned media, and then there's your earned media. Your paid media, like the name implies, is stuff that you pay for. This is stuff like your ads, like your Meta ads, your Google ads, YouTube placements. Yes, ads can get very costly, but I think ads are a great way to have a very significant control over your marketing, more effectively cut through the algorithm. Through your paid media, you're able to more specifically target fans of similar bands, similar genres, more specific geographic locations. You're able to really hone in on the very specific demographic that you're looking to reach with your music. I know a lot of people might not like paying for ads, but this is the world that we live in. Again, we need to stop thinking like artists and start thinking like businessmen. The second form is our owned media. These are the marketing channels that we own, like our social media, our YouTube channel, our website, stuff like that. This is gonna be your primary engine of marketing that doesn't cost money. You know, stuff like your Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, what have you, whatever your main platforms are. And with this, you need to have a very, very strong strategy. And with that, I very much so recommend having a social media calendar. It's a great way to avoid that very common band issue of, hey bro, what do we post today? I don't know what to post. I thought we posted everything. You're able to plan ahead and know exactly what to post, when to post it. For an EP or a single release, I definitely recommend having at least 2 to 4 weeks of pre-release content, and then definitely at least 6 to 8 weeks of post-release content to support it. But if you don't plan your content and you don't post for a little bit, your band's dead, your band disappears, you're not on the algorithm anymore, and then you gotta slowly claw your way back to where you were before. Again, I cannot drill this point enough, but being consistent is your #1 thing that you want to focus on as a band. And finally, we have your earned media. And this is the stuff that you can't really control. This is the organic buzz. This is stuff like Reddit threads, reaction channels, viral moments, landing on big playlists. This is stuff that you can't really control, but you can kind of encourage it in a way. You definitely hit up reaction channels or Twitch streamers to have them check out your music and show them to their audience. And your earned media also kind of encapsulates those big viral moments that you get on social media. We kind of have a lot of people using your song or doing a trend with your song or what have you. I know it's very easier said than done to kind of have a viral moment. If it was easy to go viral, everyone would go viral, but you gotta just experiment until something clicks, you know what I mean? It's very much so just kind of shooting fish in a barrel until you find something that works for you. I think that TX2, love him or hate him, is a genius when it comes to engineering viral content and controversy. You may not like his music or his image or feel a very certain type of way about him, but there's no denying that dude has seen absolutely insane growth, and it's absolutely because dude is an expert at TikTok and manufacturing those viral moments. And next up, we gotta talk about our live shows. Here's kind of a hot take. I don't really think live shows are that relevant anymore. At least I don't really think that they're your primary growth driver anymore, like how it used to be in the 2000s and before. The internet absolutely is your primary growth driver, and that is what you absolutely should be focusing on. That being said, you still need to prove that you can draw to promoters. Promoters still care about ticket sales. They don't want to have a band on a big bill that they know will not have any draw. So when you do play shows, start building a resume. Track where you're playing. Track how many people come for you. And then that way, it's a lot easier to get bigger shows later on in the future. And that kind of has a little bit of a snowball effect, because then you'll just start getting progressively bigger and bigger shows the more that you add to your resume, the bigger shows you get offered. And it helps somewhat legitimize you. It helps kind of showcase, hey, this band actually matters. There are people that are actually willing to physically go to a place for this band. And as the little marketing guru that I am, I will also say that shows are the prime opportunity for capturing content, whether that be live clips, crowd shots, selfies with the fans, backstage footage, funny clips of you guys just hanging out in the green room. You can generate legitimately so much content just from a singular show and work that into your social media calendar, and then you're able to extend that social media calendar even more than it already is. And now for the last thing that we need to talk about, which is the least fun thing to talk about in this entire thing, and that is the financial reality of it all. You need to be ready to spend some actually real big bread for this stuff. I'm gonna be so for real with you. Like I said earlier in the video, you gotta work with professionals if you wanna look professionals, and working with professionals is not cheap. I know a lot of bands don't really talk about their financials, but for the first EP release of Wither, we probably spent about $10,000, give or take. I'll have the exact numerical split on the screen so you can see how that's all specifically divvied. But being in a serious band is not cheap at all. But we're not rich, obviously. We're just a bunch of broke 20-something-year-olds with regular jobs, so this is doable. You just need to be ready to budget severely, to sacrifice, and to treat it like an investment, because ultimately that's what this is. This is an investment. Like with a startup company, you need to invest a lot of capital into that. If you treat your band like a hobby and pay for it like a hobby, it's gonna pay you like a hobby. At the end of the day, you need to treat your band like a serious business, because that's the only way that you're gonna be able to get paid like it's a serious business. That's enough of me yapping about things that I'm probably underqualified to talk about. Sum things up in a nice little TLDR format. You're gonna wanna write a ton of music, release strategically, build a very strong and aesthetic brand, invest in professionals, play smart shows, market yourself intelligently, and be ready to spend a lot of money. Yes, luck plays a very large part in this. However, it is mainly about the execution. So if you're serious, act like it. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think that I'm totally off base with everything that I said? Is there something else that you would add to my list? Be sure to let me know down below in the comments section. If you guys like this video or learned something helpful, please definitely feel free to leave a like or a subscribe. It helps me out immensely. And with all that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.